Experience tranquility. Pass into the iris.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Iris Podcast. I'm your host, Bowsy. Joining me here today, we have Apathy and we have Train on the broadcast. How are you two doing on this fine Monday evening?
Good. How are you?
I mean, I could be doing better. I'm currently recovering from a cold I got this weekend. So if you hear me coughing off mic, there's a good reason for that, and you can obviously tell just by the tone of my voice here. But nonetheless, we have a very amazing podcast episode for you here today. We're 1 week into the playoffs, and already a bunch of brackets are broken, as well as we have our end-of-season award nominees. But before we get to all of that, we have to recap the first week and look into the future with our first section of Amp It Up, starting off with our favorite moment from the last week. Apathy, we'll start with you.
You know, I think I've earned getting to say this for once, and so my favorite moment is definitely Big Bang Buccaneers winning their first ever playoff game. They finally did it. You know, I'm not in the way anymore. I'm not really helping that team at all, other than like reminding them scrim. And so they finally managed to win without me holding them back, and that's awesome. It makes me really happy.
Who would have thought apathy was the problem? I'm kidding. But no, Big Bang Buccaneers finally breaking their playoff curse, actually in the reverse way that they've always had it. Big Bang Buccaneers have always been reverse swept. This week, they reverse swept the team that they faced off against. So Big Bang Buccaneers finally breaking that playoff curse and making it through one game of the playoffs. Train, what was your favorite moment from last week?
I finally feel vindicated for supporting this team all season. Death Cards got the 3-0 win over Krabby Crabbers. You know, I hate to see my boy Dragon on Krabby Crabbers go down like that, but Death Cards is a team that I've been seeing their praises like all season long. I think they have a really talented roster, but the results in regular season just weren't going their way. So happy they really turned around. A good time to start an upward trend.
Yeah, definitely. Death Cards. Obviously, late season pickups, being able to bring themselves into that great match against Krabby Crabbers and go up into the next round of the bracket. We could see an underdog bracket run from Death Cards this season. We've seen it before. It's been possible. Battalion can tell you all about it. So we'll see if they're able to recover. My favorite moment, I'm going back to Harmonies here like Apathy was, and I'm looking at Narwhal Connects taking the big upset, probably one of the biggest upsets of the playoffs so far, beating Ace High in a 3-0 sweep. Ace High, a very highly rated team throughout the entire season, has always been in our top 8. Narwhal Connects has always been close, but hasn't been able to hit that top 8. And now they take down one of the juggernauts of the season, and it's a big upset, definitely, and we'll have to see how far Narwhal Connects can push with that upset win. But now, as we head into the second week of the playoffs, what are you most looking forward to this week? Apathy, starting with you.
I was looking over some of the matches we've seen. We do have kind of the nature of playoff seeding and whatnot. There are a lot of rematches, but I thought it was interesting to note there's one non-rematch in Discord in a upper bracket, and that's going to be Reminiscence versus Steel Team Spuds, because Steel Team Spuds took out Redacted last week, so they're the only B pool team to move forward in the upper bracket of playoffs, and I think this will be a really fun match. You've got a lot of friends on each side, so there's going to be a ton of banter and a little bit of a smart civil war.
I mean, also in the same way, most of the players from Reminiscence, or at least some of the players from Reminiscence this season, were on Steel Team Spuds last season. So, kind of a return to form between those two teams. Train, what is what are you looking more for? What are you looking forward to this week?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to kind of the beginnings of the end. I guess getting very near to the end of Harmony Tier EU. Dino Nuggies and Brig Divers, I think, is the most exciting semifinal game over there this week. But those two teams have been really going back and forth in my personal power rankings. They're neighbor seeds as well. So just one more really competitive match to kind of prompt us or prep us for the finals on the EU side of things.
Yeah, definitely. Discord tier EU's or Harmony EU semifinal is going to be interesting. And Brig Divers versus Dino Nuggies, a rematch from week 3 where they had their feature match, and Brig Divers cementing themselves as the first seed in Harmony EU. So we'll see how they're able to do. My pick is going over to the Discord side of the EU, which is Deathwatch versus Cam. Obviously, both of these teams, a very interesting start to the playoffs. Cam taking a big upset last week, knocking out Feeders Divided in the Map 5 series. Deathwatch are still recovering from that mythical Kitsune game where they lost 3-2. Were able to win last week against Dragon's Aura in a clean sweep, and it's going to be interesting to see how they face off against Cam. The winner of that match goes on to the championship bracket to face off against Mythical Kitsune. So we could see a rematch between Deathwatch or Mythical Kitsune, or we could see Cam pulling off the amazing upset. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Now, of course, the playoffs are started, which means that we have a lot of top teams. We already know what our top teams are. And usually this is where we would be showing our top teams in each division. But obviously, again, playoffs have started. We know what the top teams are in every division. So instead, I want to take a look back at what happened last week. Last week, of course, we had our Bracketology Megacast, where me, Navino, Nerfed, and Magpolar all were predicting brackets based on every single tier. I showed off our Discord tier EU brackets from week 1 on that broadcast and showed how bad they were, so I thought, why not integrate Bracketology into the main podcast by showing all of our scores and having our analysts here react to them and see how well or how badly we did in the previous week. This is going to be basically a replacement for the top 8 I'm trying to establish, so we'll see if it sticks around. But we're going to start off here with the first round of the Busted Bracketology Report is what I'm dubbing it as. Starting off with Harmony EU. Train, we only had one match in Harmony EU this week, but all of us, this is all of our predictions for that match and what the actual result was. Your thoughts on what we saw here?
Yeah, I think coming into bracketology, you expect people to just kind of like throw some things at the wall and get a lot of things right, get a lot of things wrong. I was surprised by how right our analysts were. Hope Guardians with a 3-0 win over Celsius 522. Everyone gets that exact except Nerfed missed it by 1 map, right? So I don't know if this is the beginning of some clairvoyance from our analyst desk, or some people actually know what they're talking about. Who would think? That would be wild. But overall, pretty impressed and surprised a bit. This is awesome.
Yeah, definitely. This is the best this is probably going to be the best you see from one tier in this entire day. Because after this, it's all downhill. So, really good start off here. Now it's time to start. Now it's time to start adding pain to this. Apathy. Let's move over to the Harmony NA bracket, starting off with the upper bracket and our results for that. Your thoughts on all of our results from the first week of Harmony NA?
So when I was writing this, I started down at the bottom for some reason, and I went backwards. So I started with BBB versus Insidious, which everybody got correct, but Navino got it exactly right. And honestly, I didn't have a chance to watch all of Bracketology, so I was still a little bit surprised that everybody got this match right, because I feel like it's a bit of an upset, but it seems like the trend has been to favor these 3-seed teams over the 6-seed teams. So I guess that would make sense. Moving on to Connex versus Ace High. Nobody was even close. This is probably the biggest upset in NA that we've had so far. F9W11 versus Strix. Only Nerfed got the result correct, the winner. And Bowsy got the reverse correctness, picking Strix 3-1. But yeah, only Nerfed believing in Fahrenheit here. They kind of underestimated how much that Grand Finals buff was going to be, I think, for Dallas. Then last but not least was Koala Kings versus Clairvoyance. Everybody got this winner wrong, or everyone got this winner right, excuse me, but Bowsy and Polar giving a pity map to Clairvoyance incorrectly. I feel like this one was pretty straightforward, and the run starts now for Clairvoyance.
Yeah, I'll have to see how well clairvoyants do. Quick note, I do know that the Big Bang Buccaneers versus Insidious score is wrong on this sheet. I apologize. The score was actually 3-2 for Big Bang Buccaneers, but I did at least say Navino got the right score, and everybody else got
it's
the
color
wrong score.
coded, right?
It is color coded, yes. I just forgot to change the score when I was before I took the image of it, so I can't change that now. But on the sheet, it does say Big Bang Buccaneers versus Insidious. It's 3-2 for Big Bang, but yeah, obviously a lot of surprises here, especially with Narwhal Connects getting that big upset over Ace High, Fahrenheit getting the win over Strix, which none of us saw that coming. Strix and Fahrenheit faced off in the regular season, and Strix took the win, I believe. So, or at least I think they've faced.
No,
off.
they haven't.
Okay, they haven't. Okay.
Strix was in my pool. Fahrenheit was in.
Right. You played against Strix, but still a lot of interesting upsets in the Harmony NA upper bracket. It'll be interesting to see how well this develops as the time goes on. Let's now move over to the lower bracket side of things. Train, we're going to jump over to you. What are just looking at the upper bracket results or the lower bracket results? What are your thoughts on every sort of match that happened here?
Yeah, I think once again, like the analysts did an okay job. I mean, we are seeing a lot of green here, all things considered. But I think we're kind of seeing some trends. Like a lot of the teams that have been consistently underestimated throughout the season continue to be underestimated. I'm talking specifically about 3.5. They took an extra map away from Chrysalis, despite still losing that than a lot of our analysts would have given them credit for. And Fire Breathing Rubber Duckies came out with a statement 3-0 win over 07 Titanium or 07 Titanium. And all of our analysts had given at least one map, except for Polar. Polar being the only person who got the score actually right. And then Bowsy had the result flipped entirely. So I think something you see in a lot of these brackets is that the slept-on teams really start runs, and an upset early can be a really good sign for some upsets later on as well. So definitely a team to watch out for moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. There were a lot of interesting upsets here. Some analysts, I mean, myself included, made a lot of interesting choices. I had 3.5 winning. I thought that they would beat Chrysalis, but it was a lot closer than I expected that match to be, but Chrysalis taking that out. 07 Titanium, I don't want to talk about it. But I think the most interesting one here is Magpolar picking Chicago Mafia and being the only person who picked Chicago Mafia and not getting that right. So...
I love Polar. A lot of his predictions are in the red.
Yeah. Polar,
I love you, Polar.
Polar had a lot of questionable decisions.
It's better that way.
You're not wrong.
He had the bravery to go where no one before him was willing to.
Yeah,
it just so happens that doesn't mean it's a good idea. It just means it's a brave idea.
Trust me when I say, as the weeks continue and we see all these results, I hate to break it to Magpolar if he's watching the broadcast right now, you're going to have a lot of red. You're going to have a lot of red on your brackets. But nonetheless, that is it for Harmony EU. Let's move over to Discord Tier EU. Only 3 matches, but the interesting thing is here, obviously, we predicted a certain amount of teams to win. Those teams didn't play. Apathy. What is your thoughts on the Discord Tier EU bracket, just looking at the results and seeing how wrong we were on some of the teams?
Only one person got any result correct over the entirety of 3 matches, and that was Davino picking a 3-2 win of Feeders United over Deathwatch. Deathwatch didn't even play. Mythical Kitsune did, but Feeders United did win that, so Davino gets the only point, so to speak, of all of Discord EU. I think both the Mythical Kitsune who upset Mythical Kitsune upset Deathwatch in the first round.
Last week Mythical Kitsune beat
and
Deathwatch.
That messed up both of these matches here.
Yeah.
And I mean that second game also weird because Berserk won and then forfeit, but that ended up not really having an impact. I'd kind of give all these analysts half a point here because they predicted Dragon's Aura to go out of the tournament here. Everybody predicted Dragon's Aura to lose. They did lose. They just didn't play against who they thought Dragon's Aura would play against. And then Cam, of course, getting an upset over Paid to Win, and then also another upset over Feeders Divided was just completely impossible for anybody to predict, I think.
Yeah, that upset Cam made kind of ruined our brackets forever. There is no recovery at this point. If Cam upset Deathwatch next week, this entire bracket is in the red forever. You're never going to see a spark of green on this bracket again if Cam upset Deathwatch. I'm just going to say it right now. It is worth noting, you did say a half point because Dragons already made it over. I'm doing this right now for the Reds and the Greens and whatnot. I'm doing it based off of Overwatch League pick'ems, where if you predict a team to beat one team, and that team does get the correct score, but they beat a different team, it does not count as a perfect score. So, it's a very confusing method, but in my eyes, that's how it works here, so...
I
mean,
didn't realize
yeah.
you were literally keeping track. I was just
Yeah, I
giving them
keep track
an
of
imaginary
everything.
point. I thought we were doing whose line is it anyways.
I mean, in a way, yeah. But yeah,
Well.
I keep track of everything. So, or at least I try to keep track of everything. But nonetheless, Discord Tier U has burned all of our brackets to the ground. We probably need to make sure the prediction office is not on fire at this point. So, we'll have to be careful of that moving forward. Let's move over to Discord Tier NA, though, where we're probably going to see a lot more green, albeit in different areas. Let me just make sure I know who's actually doing this. Yes, it's going to be Train. Let's talk about the Discord Tier NA upper bracket.
Yeah, I think this part of the brackets really had the most highs and lows. I think in the other sections, it's either mostly right or, in the case of Discord EU, almost entirely wrong. This has some awesome matches, right? You see MI7 Ragnarok Loki, MI7 with a 3-0 win over Loki that every single analysis got the result and score perfect, which is really cool. Awesome. Good job by them. And then you have Hammerhead versus Avalon, where only Navino got the right victor predicted and also got the perfect score, whereas everyone else had Hammerhead winning that game. Hades versus Joey Esports, a very clean, concise 3-0 from Joey Esports. Bowsy and Nerf Navino get that right. Polar gets it flipped, as is a common trend here. And SEAL Team Spuds, Justin, the Spuds branding, come out with a 3-1 win over Redacted. That everyone gets perfect, but Bowsy misses by just one map. So a lot of really good prediction here. Hammerhead versus Avalon is just like the upset of the week, as far as I'm concerned. That's a really impressive result from Avalon.
Definitely.
More than our wall.
Yeah, I mean...
Or you mean in Discord tier?
In Discord tier.
In Discord tier, I would say that's the upset. Yeah, that's the upset.
Not
of the
overall.
Week. not overall. There are plenty of other big
definitely
upsets.
not overall. Yeah,
there were a lot of bigger upsets this week. But yeah, definitely. Discord NA definitely tended itself to a lot of interesting matchups. I like to see some of these matchups going the correct way. But Magpolar again is the standout here, just picking Hades over Joey. I mean, I'll give him credit. He did get SEAL Team versus Redacted right. I did not get the correct score for that. But yeah. Also, Ragnarok Loki versus MI7. To my knowledge, that is the only time all 4 of our analysts on Bracketology got the correct score for a match. That is the only time this week that we all got the correct score. That tells you a lot about how unpredictable this week was in terms of matches. So, I mean... kudos to us, I guess. We got it all right. We succeeded in that. But now it's time to delve more into the red here as we head over to lower bracket of Discord NA. Apathy, let's go over to you.
All right. First of all, we have Thunder Duckies versus Cosmic Castaways that absolutely nobody expected, especially not Polar. But I think that's just because he learns from me of never predict your own team because it's a curse. Then we've got Poseidon 3-1ing Adrenalines. Bowsy and Nerfed getting this one correct. Navino taking an upset. Polar still getting it correct, but thinking it was going to be a little bit closer. Not his worst pick. Moving on to Adelaide Eclipse versus Vampires. I felt like this one was probably the easiest to get correct, and I think that does show. We have 3 analysts getting the score correct. Polar going again for an upset. and unfortunately not landing on this one. But he does land on the next match with Fahrenheit 214 versus Space Created, the only person to predict that. I think the big takeaway here is that that Polar really believed in the elimination bracket this week, and it managed to pay off on one of those matches.
I feel like there's two sides to every Polar story. For one hand, he makes all the wrong predictions in some aspects. On the other, he's the only person to make the right prediction in some others. I don't know which side, and if Polar can balance those out, I think he has a chance at success. But it's definitely
simply the X Factor.
He is the X Factor, and it's scaring me at this point because at this point, I am prepared to see a weird sort of finals matchup. But to be fair, we'll get into the next tier, which is Transcendence tier train. Starting off in the upper bracket here, which there were some interesting scores, but nonetheless all stable. Bring us through the upper bracket of Transcendence tier.
Yeah, I think, again, a lot of pretty chalk results out of the trans tier here. All 3 zeros in this side of the bracket. Decaps with a very nice 3-0 win over Culture that almost everyone predicts, except Polar, who gave 2 maps to Culture.
That would have
Amnesia.
happened if they played, so that's not Polar's fault.
Yeah, true.
Because
True.
remember,
Polar had a chance.
Culture forfeited.
They
so.
did indeed forfeit.
Unfortunate.
So, I don't know, Polar. You're just too scary for him. Amnesia versus Reckless Sigma. I was surprised to see all of the analysts give a map over to Sigma, but it didn't pan out that way. 3-0 for Amnesia. Guangzhou Gangsters, again, a clean 3-0. Pretty easy to predict with their dominance throughout the regular season. Bowsy misses that, giving 2 maps to Classified. A pretty reasonable prediction, I think, but Guangzhou proved themselves pretty strong this time around. Devil Dukes also with a 3-0 over Sydney Sunsets. Bowsy gets it perfect. Navito Polar get it pretty close, and Nerfed is a little backwards there. So overall, pretty good. Again, some weird predictions and variants there, but mostly chalk results all the way around.
Yeah, pretty much there were obviously some weird predictions, i.e. Mad Polar and me giving 2 maps to the opposing team of Decapitators and Guangzhou Gangsters, but overall I think we did pretty well in the upper bracket. Nerfed was the only real questionable decision, with Sydney Sunsets getting 2 maps. Sydney Sunsets getting the win over Devil Dukes, but nonetheless, definitely an interesting look at the upper bracket. We'll have to see how it pans out moving into the next week. But now it's time to go over to the lower bracket, which Apathy, we see a lot of red in one match in particular.
Yeah, nobody predicted this Death Cards upset. Everybody was a Krabby Crab believer. I think that's just a talking in Discord diff. I mean, like, everybody's talking about this team, but they forgot to actually play their match, and that strategy didn't really work out well for them. At least not this season. I mean, maybe maybe all that marketing around them will help them in the free agency for next season.
Sign some free agents.
But
Exactly.
moving on to Frostfisher versus Lijiang Legion. Everybody got this score correct. Nobody gave Lijiang Legion the 2 maps that they earned. But I'm not really surprised that everybody was expecting a more dominant game from Frostfisher. And lastly, Arctic Foxes versus Palm Beach Poggers. This one must be the closest one that we've gotten to, other than MI7 versus Loki. This must be the next closest one to 100% accuracy, with only Nerfed giving a pity map to the Palm Beach Poggers.
We also had the Hope Guardians one. Same situation. Nerf gave a map to Celsius, so...
Right.
I mean...
Right.
Same with Spuds and Redacted. Bowser just gave 1 extra map to Redacted.
Same with
So
Classified and Guangzhou Gangsters. I gave 2 maps to Classified. There were a lot of situations where we almost had 100% accuracy, but this was not one of them. But yeah, definitely a lot of interesting matches in the Transcendence tier lower bracket. A lot to look into. We'll have to see how these matches pan out and how many of our brackets are ruined based off of the Krabby Crabbers' loss to Death Cards, and how many more brackets Death Cards can kill.
Did Polar have Krabby winning it all?
No, he didn't, but he had them
Okay.
going to semis. So
Yeah, I thought so.
Oh, you hate to see it.
I cannot wait to
I
show
don't
off
hate
his
to see
bracket moving forward because it's going to be rough.
It's going to be a long few weeks for you, Polar. my
It's going to
friend.
be a
I'm sorry.
long few weeks. He better have some drinks ready. But nonetheless, that is your brackets, your busted bracketology review for the first week. We're going to try to keep this up every single week as long as I can get the graphics sorted and as long as I can make sure it does not last over 30 minutes. Now, with that out of the way, before we head into the special event of the day, which is our end of season award nominees, obviously, with with the brackets ended and with the first week of playoffs gone, we have unfortunately had to say goodbye to some memorable teams in our tournament. And the way we usually
Harmony and seem to be one of the leaders of this team. And I also like the name.
Definitely a lot of interesting names in this. You're going to be seeing a lot more interesting names. Spoiler alert, some of them could not fit in the graphics I had to make for the Harmony EU side. So
I wonder who.
I wonder who. You'll find out in a few seconds. But nonetheless, a lot of good candidates here for Best Main Tank in Harmony EU. Now it's time to move over to the next category, which is the Best Flex Tank in Harmony EU. In that category, we have Axel from Dino Nuggies, Basil Norris from Hope Guardians, Silas from Aesir, and The Table from Brig Divers. Train, who is your pick for Best Off-Tank in Harmony EU?
Yeah, I picked The Table from Brig Divers. And, I'm an off-tank player. And this is really really like one of maybe 2 or 3 off-tank names out of Harmony EU that have really stuck in my mind throughout the entire season. And I've just consistently been impressed by them. Like, they have genuinely memorable gameplay from everything that I've seen. And it's hard to say that for very many players throughout the whole tier for me. So really well done.
Apathy, who is your pick for Best Off-Tank in this tier?
I went with Silas on Aesir. Watching back their upset versus Brig Divers, he looked like he was kind of one of the driving factors for that win. So got to give him credit for that.
Definitely driving forces for the off-tank. You love to see it, especially with the switch to Overwatch 2. Only one tank means that off-tank could be a lot more impactful, especially when Zarya's in the meta, which makes me happy and also mad at the same time. Regardless, let's move over now to our Best Hit Scan nominees for Harmony Tier EU. Your Hit Scan nominees for the tier: you have Darkson on Hope Guardians, Jammy from Acer, Mate 0210-2003 from Dino Nuggies, Sora from the Brig Divers, and Warrior from Celsius 522. Train, who's your pick of these nominees for Best Hit Scan?
I went for Mate, and I guess that's a birthday. It seems like I don't know what the
so.
significance is of that date. Someone please inform me.
I believe it is. I think they mentioned it last season that it is.
Okay, yeah, that sounds. I think I remember that from somewhere. But again, yeah, another memorable player with tons of pop-off performances, specifically in feature matches, from what I remember. Even going all the way back to last year, I thought they deserved a nod for the same award last year. So I'm going to keep singing your praises. I support you so much.
Made, of course, part of that championship-winning Venice Vipers roster, so definitely
my favorite team of all time.
Your favorite team of all time, Train. So definitely a good candidate there. Apathy, who is your favorite for the Hit Scan Harmony EU contention?
This is tough because I do think Mate is a little bit of a clear favorite, but if I had to pick someone after them, I went with Sora on Brig Divers. I think they are the closest, and they've shown that they can be ahead of Mate sometimes. Brig Divers did get that upset over Dino Nuggies in week 3. So yeah, I went with Sora.
Sora definitely has also been a good pick. I'm going to chime in here. Usually I don't, but I'm going to pick Darkson. Darkson has been a driving force for Hope Guardians, so I think definitely Darkson is a good pick on this list. Next, let's move over to our Best Projectile DPS in Harmony EU. You have Dragon from Aesir, Hayden Nolna from Brig Divers, Kip from Celsius, Maxu from Dino Nuggies, and Shinbo from Hope Guardians. Train, who is your favorite of this list?
I picked Dragon from Aesir. This team has really snuck up on me, I think. I didn't really have them as high on my power rankings as I definitely should have a little bit earlier. And going back through film, like, Dragon is really the difference maker in a lot of these fights, finding openings and generating a lot of pressure. So I think they are one of the major contributing factors to Aesir's rise, for sure.
Apathy, who's your favorite in this group?
I went with Maxu on Dino Nuggies, just a very flexible player, coached by Null, which is, of course, a good player, so it's good that he didn't turn into a Pharaoh 1 trick. But yeah, just shows off his flexibility that Dino Nuggies can play around, so Maxu.
You gotta love that flexibility, especially in the projectile DPS role. Let's move over now to the flex support, the backline, making sure that the team is healed, or at least one of the two, as we see the 4 nominees for flex support. Lucas from Celsius, Norak from Hope Guardians, Rest in Pieces from Brig Divers, and Skyflower from Dino Nuggies. Train, who is your favorite of this list of 4?
I went for Skyflower. I mean, for me, it's just a clear, easy pick for me personally. Flex support just has so many responsibilities on top of not dying. And it's hard to find someone who can do all of that and not die consistently. And so Skyflower, of course, has a great team behind them. But I think a lot of that comes down to individual performance, and they just do it better than most, I would argue.
Apathy, who is your pick of this list, or at least your favorite?
I went with what might be a bit of a surprise. I went with Lucas on C522. Although they did end the season the lowest possible spot, and I don't know that many of their other players are going to be favorites for these roles, but I do think that Lucas was kind of their foundation throughout the season. They had a lot of players come and go, but Lucas was there the entire time, and he seems like a good leader for them.
Lucas, definitely a very good flex support player, but active in several communities. Definitely has been pretty good overall and been a linchpin for Celsius this season. So good to see him get some representation here. Let's go over to the best main support in Harmony EU. Only 4 again for this. You have Blondie from Hope Guardians, Choanoi from Brig Divers, Prostitute from Dino Nuggies, and Obese Walrus from Celsius 522. Realizing now I spelled obese wrong. But nonetheless, Train, who is your favorite of this list?
I went for Prostitute, again, from Dino Nuggies. I'm just the world's biggest Dino Nuggies stan, it seems, reading my picks back.
Because of Venice Vipers.
I guess it's a Venice Vipers holdover. I can't help it. I don't know. I just like them so much. But I think their backline has been a really, really huge key in terms of converting a lot of that Overwatch 1 success into Overwatch 2. They're just always around, always doing their jobs. There's really not much more you can ask for. I can say it only so many times that like consistency and vision and stability are really what you need in a team going through so many adaptations. I think the support line of Dino Nuggies really stands out in that regard.
Apathy, who is your favorite of this list of 4?
You have to go with the Brig who's diving. I mean, the team is named after them. So I went with Choanoi.
That's it. Just the
That's
Brig
it.
diving.
Based.
I mean, they are. I mean, they're a talented player. There's obviously more to it, but that's really all you need to know. They're the Brig that dives.
Fair enough. You gotta love the namesake for the team helping you out in the long run here. Of course, the main roles are not the only thing in consideration. As I mentioned, we also have a most improved category. This can be referring to most improved throughout this season of Tranquility compared to past seasons of Tranquility, whichever team classifies as most improved in this category. But our candidates for most improved in Harmony EU are Kip from Celsius, Karama from Dino Nuggies, Nero from Hope Guardians, and Silas from Aesir. Train, who is your favorite of this list?
I went for Nero. I already talked about Nero on my main tank pick earlier. But Hope Guardians as a team has really been on the up and up. I think from some middling results kind of early in the season. And Nero's been a really large part of that. You can see it visually in terms of their playstyle. They're adapting every single game. And so really, really cool to see them develop as the season's going on.
Apathy, your pick of this list for most improved.
I also went with a repeat. I went with Silas on Aesir. We kind of mentioned earlier how this team has kind of snuck up on a lot of people. I believe they were like 3rd or below literally the entire season, and then shot up to 1st in just that last week with that upset over Dino Nuggies. Is that right? Aren't they the 1st seed now?
Yes, they were. That was when they beat Brig Divers.
Yeah, that's what I meant. And I don't think that's necessarily because we were underrating them at the beginning of the season. I think they've just, improved that much. So I'm going with Aesir, aka Silas here.
Definitely a good pick there for most improved. Now let's head over to our final category. Of course, it's not just about the players. It's It's also about the coach. The coach helps you develop strategies, helps you out through everything. The coach is the unspoken linchpin. But here in Tranquility, we have a category for best coach. The 4 people in contention for best coach are Agent Thumbs from Hope Guardians, Phoenix from Celsius, Potato from the Dino Nuggies, and Wanglin from Brig Divers. Train, who is your pick of this list for best coach?
I went for Agent Toms. From oh my gosh, I just closed my list. From Hope Guardians, of course. Sorry, I'm very organized, as you can tell. But yeah, Hope Guardians. Like I can only talk about their rise so much, so I won't repeat myself. But a lot of that starts with gameplay analysis, theorizing Overwatch 2, and having a team that also supports that kind of change. I think Agent Toms has really cultivated that kind of team atmosphere. It seems, from their gameplay and their success so far. So exciting to see. Really nicely done.
Just for a comparison, Hope Guardians, a lot of former members from A10 Esport last season, which was a number 10 seed in the playoffs. So a lot of improvement on the back of Agent Toms this season. Apathy, who is your pick for best coach in this tier?
Coaches can be kind of hard to tell, especially for our EU tiers that are smaller, and we don't always catch streams. You can't. It's hard to watch back a code and see the impact that a coach has, and we don't have access to these team scrims, obviously, or anything like that. So some signs that I'm looking out for when I made this pick are teams that maybe struggled early, or in this case did really well and were highly predicted early and faced a brutal upset. And so that's Dino Nuggies and Potato for me. They were kind of renowned as the absolute favorites to win the tier until that upset when they lost to Brig Divers in week 3. And that can kind of kill the mental for a lot of teams. But that we didn't really see that happening with Dino Nuggies. They were able to bounce back rather cleanly and reclaim kind of a top spot here pushing into playoffs.
Definitely a good performance coming out for Dino Nuggies. Potato has been on the linchpin of that, coaching this team throughout the entire season. So definitely a lot of interesting stuff. But that is it for Harmony EU and that is it for the nominations over in that tier. Let's move back across the pond here and head over to Harmony NA, where the graphics are going to look a little different because we did have some graphical changes. Keep in mind as well, some of the teams that these players are being represented under are a little bit wrong. That's okay, though. I will say the correct team that they are part of when I announce them. Let's start off with the main tank category. Best main tank in the tier in Harmony North America. 8 nominees. Those nominees are Chobi from the Galactic Penguins, Churd from Geometric, Classy Crew from Narwhal Connects, Jewish Missile from the Big Bang Buccaneers, Nova from Ace High, Pasty from Flashbacks, Riker from Fahrenheit 972, and Thomas from the Koala Kings. Train, who is your pick of this list of 8 for best main tank?
My pick is Classy Crew. Narwhal Connects coming out of seemingly nowhere, or coming out of underestimated land, wherever that might be. I don't know, man. But Classy Crew, obviously a rock there in the front line for the team. Has been around Shank for a little bit now, and is really starting to make a name for themselves in a very exciting way.
Apathy, who is your pick for best main tank?
I had to go with Pasty. A very, very talented main tank at, basically every hero that falls under that category, and now some of the off tanks. I believe he plays some Zarya here and there, as a lot of our main tanks do. So I went with Pasty here. I feel like that's the safe answer.
Yeah, Pasty definitely has been a linchpin for that Flashbacks roster. Season 7 Sky Guardians, they were also an MVP consideration, so it's great to see sticking with it this season and being able to bring that team toward this goal that they are right now. Let's move over now to best off tank in the Harmony North American category. Your contenders for this tier are Apathy from the Galactic Penguins, Bethcon from Big Bang Buccaneers, Emily from Geometric, Kiddo from Flashbacks, Oa from Aimbots, Stopu from Fahrenheit, T-Fast from the Koala Kings, and TIE Fighter from Ace High. Train, who is your pick of this list for best off tank?
I picked Kiddo, man. I mean, it's just Kiddo is just so good. I don't. There are only so many times I can come on the podcast and like hype up Kiddo. Like just an amazing up-tank player. Really, not much else to say.
Kiddo has always been talked about highly since the start of the season here. Apathy, who is your pick? And I'm glad to see that you didn't pick yourself.
Well, I don't even know who this other guy is because I'm pretty sure Xanthipy is the off tank for
Oh,
Galactic Penguins.
That's,
So I'm
that's
not sure
funny.
what my name is doing up there.
Yeah, that's weird.
To be honest, it's kind of hard to pick somebody after Kiddo. By principle, there's two people that I'm not going to pick, and so I was kind of looking. I was like, do I want to go with Awa? He kind of struggled in stage 2. TIE Fighter, maybe a little bit of recency bias. He did, that Narwhal Connects upset didn't look great, and Nova's been the one playing the Zarya for Ace High. And then I realized that there's still T-Fast, who I think has been a really underestimated and very strong carry for Koala Kings. I think he's one of their like top 3 players on this team. He's really helping carry them, and he's an extremely flexible player from what I've seen. I think both their tanks basically just play Monkey and Zarya or whatever is meta at the time. It doesn't really matter which of their 2 tanks are in. Both of them play exceptionally well.
T-Fast definitely the Koala Kings roster has been silent but effective this season, and T-Fast I think is definitely one player who can fall into that category. So T-Fast definitely a favorite there. Let's move over to Hitscan DPS for Harmony North America. Your candidates in this tier are Bwell from the Flashbacks, Duality from EX Kusanagi, Falling Stars from Aimbots, Formless from Fahrenheit, Kilroy from the Koala Kings, Pug from Ace High, Sergeant Pepper from the Galactic Penguins, and Tilted Waffle on Geometric Train. Who is your pick for who's your favorite of this list of 8?
I love Kilroy. Kilroy is just like the Phantom of Harmony tier. I don't know. Like every time I look at a list of players, I see like Kilroy's name. I go watch like a Koala Kings game. And it's just Kilroy everywhere, right? I don't know how this player is so quiet. I don't feel like we talk about them as much as we should. But really, there's a lot of consistent, outstanding performances from them for Koala Kings.
They're only so quiet because no one knows that they're there because they're actually Mr. Roboto the entire time. So good. If you get that reference, I like you. Yeah. Thank you, Apathy. Speaking of that, Apathy, who is your favorite of this list of 8?
I went with Tilted Waffle on Geometric. I know we've talked about some of their other DPS quite a lot, but I personally, when I played against them, I felt like Tilted Waffle was the carry of this team, and I think they are the closest one to Kilroy in the tier right now.
Definitely Tilted Waffle, a very strong DPS pick. Geometric's DPS picks are kind of off the charts this season, so Tilted Waffle definitely getting some consideration. Definitely a good DPS pick this season. Let's move over now to best projectile DPS in Harmony North America, starting off with A-Tech from the Galactic Penguins, Azino from the Flashbacks, Bubba Wyatt from Fahrenheit, Jin from Geometric, Phantom from Strix, Hazdio from Insidious, Silent from EX Kusanagi, and Vex from Ace High. Train, of this list of 8, who is your favorite to win the title?
I picked Jin from Geometric. Their Reaper in Stage 2 and playoffs. So has Geometric? No, Geometric has not played a playoffs game yet.
No.
But
they played Reaper in Stage 1. So that's what
they did.
About.
Yeah, they did. They played in Stage 1 as well. But Jin's Reaper is terrifying. I don't get how you can get so much value out of such a simple hero. My brain is simply too small to understand that. But Jin is really, when you're putting down carry performances on Reaper of all things, like you've got to get a shout out. That's crazy.
Apathy, what about you? Who's your favorite in this group?
Yeah, I feel like we might need to rename this to Best Reaper in Harmony NA because I'm going with Vex, who's also been a standout Reaper player throughout Stage 2 and a little bit of Stage 1, although I know he preferred to call himself a Doomfist main back in those days. But yeah, I think he's the best player on Ace High, and is they kind of win or lose through Vex basically.
Yeah, definitely. Vex has been a very strong pick for Ace High this season. We'll have to see how well he's able to continue that trend as the playoffs keep going, especially after that loss to Narwhal Connects. But we'll see. Now moving over to the flexible position, of course, one of the unspoken two carries of the Overwatch game. Your nominees for the category are Boxes from Insidious, Cleary from Geometric, Dino Nugs from Fahrenheit, Drowsy from Drowsy from the Koala Kings, Mooncake from Fire Breathing Rubber Duckies, Onyx from the Galactic Penguins, Thuggington from Flashbacks, and Yo Jimbo from Strix. Train, we'll start with you. Who is your favorite of this list of 8?
I'm picking Onyx from the Galactic Penguins. I've been singing Onyx's praises ever since like halfway through last season. But I think quietly they are one of the big puzzle pieces that makes this Galactic Penguins team work. It's kind of a little bit of an inconsistent roster once in a while. You know, there are highs and lows. But Onyx is one of the rocks who's putting out consistent high performances that keeps this team so successful.
Apathy, who is your favorite?
I went with Thuggington on Flashbacks. I think, Flashbacks are obviously a favorite team. They've gotten every single position nominated so far. A lot of people talk about their tanks. To me, I think Thug is the second most, definitely the third most important, or maybe the second most important player on that team. And maybe that's a little controversial to say, but I think that Thuggington is one of the silent pieces that makes that team work so well, and definitely one of the best performing flex supports we've had this season.
I said in the preseason finals, this is the season of Thuggington, and right now it's looking a lot like it with him being in contention for best flex support in the tier. Let's move over now to best main support for Harmony North America. Your contendants, or your nominees for Harmony North American main support, are Blue Roses from Fahrenheit, Bubbles from the Galactic Penguins, Dae from Big Bang Buccaneers, Dak from Insidious, Hypno from Ace High, Coconut from Flashbacks, Mellow from the Koala Kings, and Wooly from Geometric. Train, of this list, who's your favorite?
My favorite is definitely Mellow from the Koala Kings. With main support, there are really two things that I kind of look at, right? It's ult usage for one. And two, do you ever just get off the same page with your team, right? Because you're kind of dictating in or out with your team, controlling angles, a lot of just kind of chores that people don't want to do. And Mellow ints perhaps the least of anyone on this list. Right? They're always where they need to be at the right time, controlling tempo, on the same page with everyone else. So quiet player, but definitely doing their job in a very clean way.
Apathy, who is your pick for best main support?
I have been picking too much Flashbacks, so I went with Dak. I think Dak Game Boy of Insidious. I think Insidious has been a little bit underrated. Like, I mean, I'm definitely to blame for this, but a little bit underrated since stage 1, when Koala Kings kind of ran that pool and everybody was like, oh, the entire pool is really, really weak. But we've seen some teams like Clairvoyance and Freya and Insidious do pretty well afterwards, and I've been most impressed with Dak Game Boy from my point of view, at least when I'm watching Insidious play.
Yeah, definitely interesting. Definitely Dak Game Boy. A lot of strong performance over there on Insidious this season. But now let's move over to our most improved in the tier based on the 8 submissions that we have, or at least the 8 nominees that we have. Your most improved candidates this season are Bubbles for Galactic Penguins, Buell for Flashbacks, Hasdio from Insidious, Lady Mella from Narwhal Connects, Riker from Fahrenheit, Lexi from the Big Bang Buccaneers, SSS Forever from EX Kusanagi, and Zexu from Geometric. Train, of this list of 8, who do you think is the most improved in the tier?
I went for B-Well on Flashbacks. For me, at the beginning of the season, like, the only question mark for me on Flashbacks was B-Well, right? And I'll be transparent, like, I was wrong about that, Okay, B-Well has time and time again proved me wrong. I'm happy to say that. I'm comfortable admitting that, nothing wrong with making a mistake. But as the season has gone on, they've just gotten better and better, right? And I'm sure part of that is the team around them, right? They've got an awesome team, obviously. But individually, they're making fewer mistakes, taking fewer risks, getting more value, better ult usage even throughout the season as well. So really well deserved, right? I don't love picking flashbacks. Okay, I don't like it, but they're a good team and they have good players for a reason.
Apathy, who is your pick of the most improved?
I went with another former nemesis, coincidentally enough. I went with Bubbles, the main support for Galactic Penguins. I think she has improved a ton over the course of this season. This one is a little biased because I've had the opportunity to see it firsthand. But I mean, for me, when I was looking at everybody else, nobody else really stood out enough for me to do the usual thing where I ignore my own bias. So for once, I went with Bubbles.
Bubbles definitely a strong player on Galactic Penguins this season. Finally, let's wrap up Harmony North America with the best coach. Of course, the unspoken heroes of the teams, the best coach category. The nominees for Best Coach are Ashes for Geometric, Banish Light for Norwal Connects, Bernie for Galactic Penguins, Caden for Fahrenheit, Iconic for Ace High, Capital for the Flashbacks, Key Limes for Insidious, and Kraken for the Big Bang Buccaneers. Train, of this list, who is your favorite?
I think there are a ton of good coaches on this list. So it's actually really hard to pick one. And I even changed my answer like 5 minutes ago. So this time I'm going to go for Ashes from Geometric. Geometric has a ton of talent, just so much talent. Ashes has really done a lot of work to refine that and get everyone pointed in the same direction. So it's been really cool to see. Again, this team has improved the more coaching they've had throughout the season. I know Ashes is really involved over there with that. So good on them. Happy to see a team really committed to development the way that Geometric is.
Apathy, your pick, or your favorite of the best coaches for Harmony North America.
I went with Key Limes of Insidious. I think that, I mean, for a lot of the reasons that I mentioned earlier with Insidious, but I also think, we don't really know. We didn't really have too many known players. Some of the older players in Tranquility would recognize a name like Lady, or I think there might be 2 boxes, but I'm thinking of Mr. Box. I'm sorry.
I believe so.
Yeah, so we didn't really know too many of these players, and mechanically, if you watch each of their POVs, none of them are like dominant mechanically in the way that the players we talked about in the DPS categories are. But this team has still been performing very well. They play very well around their tempo. They've played a lot of wacky comps to some success. And so I think you got to give a nod to Key Limes here.
Yeah, definitely. Insidious, a lot of unknowns. The only 2 people on that roster that I could actually remember from past seasons were Biscuit, who left the roster midway through, and Lady, who played back in Season 5. So, a lot of unknowns to that roster for Insidious. Key Limes being able to bring them together is big, and their success this season cannot be undermined. So, good job so far for Key Limes this season. And that wraps up our Harmony North American coverage. Now it's time to head back over across the pond to EU for Discord Tier U. I apologize if I sound a little hoarse. It's because I am. I'm starting to lose my voice. But regardless, we're going to power through this, and we're going to start off with the best main tank nominations for Discord Tier U. Again, such a small tier. Everybody in every team gets nominated, or at least gets considered, if they submitted a nomination. But regardless of which... here are your nominees for Best Main Tank in Discord Tier EU, being Sandor Saft from Berserk, Geodry from Dragon's Aura, Taikutsu from Feeders United, Checky from Feeders Divided, Bojack from Mythical Kitsune, and Jaya from Paid to Win. Train, who is your favorite of this list?
Definitely Bojack from Mythical Kitsune. Not only for the namesake, okay? I pick people for reasons other than names sometimes. But But Mythical Kitsune has had a monstrous rise in postseason. And Bojack has been the big leader of that from a gameplay perspective. So definitely deserves a nod.
Apathy, who's your pick for best main tank in this group?
I went with Taikutsu on Feeders United. One of the favorites throughout the whole season. I think this team has looked really good. They looked really good last season as well, and Taikutsu is one of their driving forces. So
Yeah, definitely Taikutsu. We talked about Taikutsu in the mid-season awards. I'm pretty sure, like they were a contender for the mid-season awards. So definitely a lot of things to go for there for the side of Taikutsu. I see Null saying Horseman in response to Bojack. I hope that may be a reference, but at the same time, I don't know. So
it's a TV show.
I know BoJack Horseman is a TV show. I don't know if BoJack's name is a reference to BoJack.
Oh, yeah.
So you can ask BoJack in the chats if you want to. But regardless, now let's move over to the best off-tank nominees for Discord tier EU. Those are Zine from Berserk, Termi from Deathwatch, Dipsax from Dragon's Aura, Princess from Feeders United, Chaza from Feeders Divided, and Artist from Mythical Kitsune. Apathy of this list. Train of this list. Who is your favorite?
My favorite is Chaza, by far. Just my favorite personality in EU. But no, all things serious. Feeders Divided was a team that we expected to do really well this season. They met an unfortunate early end at the hands of their sister team. But Chaza was really one of the high points for me. I'm an off-tank player, like I said earlier. So I don't know. Maybe I just noticed that more. But they were just running around in circles doing everything for that team for a while. It's great to see.
Yeah, definitely. Chaza, one of my two favorite Pokemon in Tranquility. The other one being Booncore.
There are two Pokemon in Tranquility.
Yeah, a team of Chaza and Booncore is unstoppable, I think. So watch out.
Only they could communicate somehow.
I mean, they could communicate between each other. I don't know about their teammates, though, so...
Yeah.
Apathy now. Who is your favorite of this list for best off tank?
I went with Termi 120 from Deathwatch. I think, is he their only tank now, or did they just not dominate someone for main tank?
I'd have to check. Give me a second. I can check that while you talk about Termi.
They've just looked really strong throughout the season. The switch to Overwatch 2 has not hurt them at all, or maybe it benefited them if they did lose that other tank player. But I think they've been one of the carries for Deathwatch, one of the two carries. Spoilers.
Yeah, definitely. They are not the only tank player. Ronan is the other tank player. They just were not nominated for best main tank in this tier. So
interesting.
But yeah, definitely Termi. If you've seen the highlights montages, Termi is usually there on the Zarya. And I think that speaks a lot of volumes to how well Deathwatch have done this season. So, Termi, definitely a best off-tank pick. Let's move over now to best hit scan DPS. Of course, our 7 nominees, every team that submitted a best whatever, or end of season award nominee did get represented here. So all 7 teams, your nominees for best hitscan DPS in Discord tier EU are Imperator from Berserk, Meowth from Deathwatch, Itachir from Dragon's Aura, Blattery from Feeders United, Jurian from Feeders Divided, Pingu from Mythical Kitsune, and Hutski from Paid to Win. Train of this list, who's your favorite?
I picked Itachir from Dragon's Aura. I have flashbacks to their feature match the other week. I can't for the life of me remember who they played. Deathwatch. Okay, thank you. As Browsy struggles to cough it out.
Yeah.
But Itachir, yeah, I was doing work at my desk at like 2 p.m. and just hearing their name over and over and over again. And this is a player, again, who was not on my radar before that moment. But watching that back, like, they had a pop-up performance. So just a really incredible hit scan who has seemingly come out of nowhere.
Apathy, who's your pick from this list?
I went with Meowth. That was the spoiler. Meowth of Deathwatch. I feel like that's the other carry of that team. Very, very, very talented player. In my opinion, I think it's tough to pick against them. I think they're they're kind of like they're just like, the proper of this tier.
Yeah, Meowth, a very strong Sombra for the side of Deathwatch. Definitely has done a lot on that hit scan roll as well. So really good contention here for that player. Let's move over to projectile DPS. Our nominees for Discord Tier U best projectile DPS are Juggert from Berserk, Overmars for Deathwatch, Akina for Dragon's Aura, Noah from Feeders United, Herald from Feeders Divided, and Pingu from Mythical Kitsune. I do not know why Pingu is nominated for both categories, regardless of which. Train of this list, who is your favorite for projectile DPS?
I went to the other part of Meowth's domination over on Deathwatch and picked Overmars. Just an incredible player. Like, really head and shoulders above the rest, it feels like at times. But yeah, I don't know. When you're consistently winning fights just from a pop-out performance from a single individual, like, they've got to get some credit somewhere.
Apathy of this list, who is your favorite?
I went with Noah on Feeders United. They've just been a really strong player this entire season. I feel like it's tough to pick against them. They've shown the ability to play like flanker style hit scan. They've shown the ability to play sniper style hit scan. Just a very, very flexible player.
You'd love to see that flexibility in your projectile DPS, especially when you switch over to the hit scan roll. That's probably why I'm going to assume Pingu is on this list as well. Probably is a very flexible player, so we'll have to see how well they do. But let's move over now to the best flex support for the tier. Your nominees for this one are Dr. Freeze 001 for Berserk, Killer Soul for Dragon's Aura, Yuri from Feeders United, Emily from Feeders Divided, and Loki from Mythical Kitsune. Train of this list, who is your favorite to win the award?
Definitely Yuri over from Feeders United. What can I say? I don't know. Playmaking flex support, to say the least. Feeders United, a ton of success this season so far. They're still going as well. And Yuri has been a major part of that. I don't know. Not much else to say.
Definitely been a strong player. Apathy, who is your pick for best flex support in the tier?
I went with Loki over on Mythical Kitsune. I think the other half of that important duo for that team, as much as Bojack is doing to the enemy team backline, you need someone who can keep them alive, whether that's on Baptiste or Ana or maybe now Kiriko, playing towards that namesake. I think you need someone that can keep up with Bojack, and I think Loki is one of the only people in the tier who can do that.
You gotta love when the Kitsune can guide you to victory, especially when you're Mythical Kitsune, so definitely a good performance there from Loki. Of course, in nomination for this. Let's move over now to the main support category for our nominations for Discord Tier EU for Best Main Support. Sosi from Berserk, Sando from Dragon's Aura, Koda from Feeders United, Jinx from Feeders Divided, Calva from Mythical Kitsune, and Zen from Paid to Win. Train of this list, who is your favorite to win the award?
I picked Jinx from Feeders Divided. Specifically because I think they worked incredibly well with Shaza throughout the season. That kind of combination of your off tank and your main support, coordinating together, finding opportunities, finding a lot of space in which to operate, while also being kind of on the opposite side of the field a lot of the time, is really something that's special to see. And I have a suspicion that without Jinx in this main support role, then Chaza going to do whatever on the flank is going to bite Feeders Divided in the butt a lot more frequently than it would have.
Yeah, definitely, especially after their loss last week to Cam. Probably can assume what happened there. But nonetheless, Apathy, who is your favorite here of this list?
I went with Koda on the other Feeders team. Not so much supporting that off tank. I think a little bit more of a Reddity Lucio style, but just being able to control the tempo for that team. I think we see, across a lot of the tiers that like the teams that can tempo well. I mean, really across all of Overwatch, but teams that can tempo well and play first and kite and disengage lost fights are some of the best Overwatch teams out there, and I think that starts with your main support.
Yeah, definitely Coda been a strong player for Feeders United this season, so definitely living up to their name. Let's go over now to the most improved in Discord tier EU. We have Juggert from Berserk, Ronin from Deathwatch, Itachier from Dragon's Aura, Noah from Feeders United, Chaza from Feeders Divided, Bojack from Mythical Kitsune, and Bulks from Paid to Win. Train of this list, who is your favorite to win most improved?
I'm going for Itachier. Right? Same reason as before. A player who was just definitely not on my radar previously to the feature match. Feature match comes around and they absolutely do work against a very, very strong Deathwatch team. But Itachier really deserves a ton of credit for the work they've been doing behind the scenes because it has definitely paid off in a really big way.
Apathy, who is your pick for most improved of this list?
I'm going to go with Juggert on Berserk, actually. I think it is worth remembering that Berserk did technically beat Dragon's Aura in round 1, but they were having availability issues for the remainder of postseason, so they did forfeit retroactively and give that spot back to Dragon Aura. But I think Juggert has been one of the mainstays on this team. They're another team that's kind of had some roster turnovers, and they were struggling to find people who wanted to stick around. But Juggert has been there the entire time, and he's been improving throughout the whole season, allowing them to get that. I think that was their first win technically in the playoffs, but I could be misremembering.
That was their first win of the season, correct? So definitely a big upset win over there for Berserk. I wish we could have had them for longer, but things happen, unfortunately. But yeah, so Juggert, definitely a strong player over there for Berserk. Now it's time to go over our best coach for the tier. This is a very stacked list, everybody. A very stacked list here. We got 3 amazing coaches coming at you from Discord Tier U. In all seriousness, though, Alexis from Berserk, Dark Vox from Fears United, and Herman from Mythical Kitsune. Train of this list, who is your favorite to win the award?
Definitely Dark Vox. It's really hard to pick against them when they've just had so much success on Feeders United so far in the postseason. Again, a team that was looking really good, maybe not quite favorite level heading into the postseason. But at this point, they are probably my favorite to win the tier, even over very strong Deathwatch team and the remainders over in the rest of the bracket. So Dark Vox have done a really nice team, and their team is seemingly peaking in performance at the right time, which is great to see.
Definitely Fears United getting that spot in the grand finals for Discord Tier U, so definitely peaking at the right time indeed. Apathy of this list of now 2 coaches, technically. Who's your favorite?
I went with Herman over on Mythical Kitsune. They might not have been the most dominant team all season, but I think Herman had a little bit less to work with than Dark Fox did in terms of raw talent and mechanics. And Mythical Kitsune has shown a lot of good macro over the course of the season. So those are some signs of a pretty good coach.
Definitely, especially if your coach can help you win against the number 1 seed in your tier. That speaks a lot of volumes. So Mythical Kitsune, definitely strong with Herman at the helm there. But that is it for all of our EU awards. Let's head back across the pond for the final time, and now let's head over to Discord Tier North America. Starting off with the best main tank nominations. Of course, 8 people nominated in Discord Tier North America for this award, and those 8 people are B-Ball Man from Joey Esports, Beppo from Cosmic Castaways, Blood Hungry from Reminiscence, Genji Main from SEAL Team Spuds, Lego My Ego from Space Created, Sam from MI7, Spooky from Adelaide Eclipse, and Stoicism from Hammerhead. Train, we're going to start with you. Who is your favorite to win the award?
I'm going with what might be a bit of a surprise pick for most people not intimately familiar with the tier. But I'm picking Genji Main from SEAL Team Spuds. They've really done a lot of work for that team. And it's clear that Smug's coaching has also helped. But they seem to really be feeling a lot more comfortable in this main tank role. And just playing much more aggressively than they were early in the season. So, yeah, I think they're overall getting the most value out of main tank at this moment.
Genji main definitely being able to excel in performance after playing on Storybook Heroes last season with that squad. Obviously, a sort of middling team toward the end of the season, but definitely showing up here on the SEAL Team Spuds this season. Apathy, who is your favorite to win of the best main tank nominees?
Well, this isn't a surprise. I love Blood Hungry. Um,
Don't we all?
I gotta go with Blood Hungry. There's some pluses and minuses of playing with a Sigma OTP. And the minus is that in stage 1 he was stuck on Orisa for a lot of the season, but the plus is on stage 2 he's actually the better Zarya of the two, and is now getting to play Zarya throughout Overwatch 2 and doing very, very well at it. A lot of people don't know the legend of Bunny Girl, Blood Hungry's second
Oh
off
man.
tank.
Oh no. Oh
Um,
no.
So he could do it all. Just saying.
That almost made me play ball last season on Cosmic, but we don't talk about that.
We don't
That
talk about
that lore, nobody will understand that.
I'm hopeful nobody will understand that because that's very, very questionable things indeed. But that is it for the best main tank nominees. A lot of good candidates all around. I do see obviously Fishface saying like, oh no, it's like half of the candidates. Keep in mind, these are not the winners that we're mentioning here. The winners come later, and I'll discuss the date for that when we're done with all the nominees. But the winners will come later for all of these. Just because we don't mention it here on the podcast doesn't mean they don't have a chance of winning. So just remember that. Just remember that when we announce our end of season award winners sooner rather than later. But now let's move over to best off tank in the tier. Your candidates here are Choi Soo-won for Reminiscence, Chuster from the Cosmic Castaways, Iconic from Chicago Deep Dish, Keegs Monswag from Space Created, Lavender from Avalon, Ricky from the SEAL Team Spuds, Satby from Adelaide Eclipse, and Sticko from the Galactic Gibbons. Train of this list, who's your favorite to win the award?
The one and only Choi Soo-won. He just does it better. I don't know. This guy is just different. For sure, the most unique off-tank player in the tier. Really aggressive play style, Sigma Warlord. Not really the kind of off-tank that we're used to seeing in the tier, at least in this meta. But Choi has been putting the work in, has been really a foundational part of the success of Reminiscence, and more than deserving.
Apathy, who's your pick of this list?
I went with Sticko of the Galactic Gibbons. A little bit tough being the only tank on a team, but in this case it works really well for the Galactic Gibbons. Sticko is a very flexible player, but is very strong at that Zarya, that Diva, and sometimes that Monkey as well. And I feel like it's a little hard to pick against him out of this list.
Sticko being moved right into the starting role for Galactic Gibbons has been a big benefit for them. They definitely have had a lot of strong performances. And I mentioned before, Sticko's a really good off-tank player. Definitely can make impact when it matters the most. So Sticko definitely a front runner in this category. Let's move over now to best hit scan DPS. Starting off with Ashes from SEAL Team Spuds, Chief Kef, otherwise known as Sempra, from Joey Esports, Laura from MI7, Seraph from Reminiscence, Taco with PTSD from Hammerhead, Tanic B from Adelaide Eclipse, Widowmane from the Galactic Gibbons, and, which I have a courtesy shirt of wearing today, Turtle from Redacted, baby! But nonetheless, for best hit scan, Train, who's your pick for the award?
I'm going Taco with PTSD, man, because they have given me PTSD. Like, damn. Hammerhead, man, this team has squeaked by with some close wins throughout the season. And Taco is just such an impressive force to play against. I play DPS in this tier, just transparency. I can't position to save my life. And Taco with PTSD is the thing that makes it so I'm not saving my life every single time. But I've learned lessons from playing against them, and so I can't really say that with much of the people I played against. So really well done.
Taco definitely has been a strong force for Hammerhead, but Apathy, your favorite, I think, is probably the favorite to win the tier. Explain.
Yeah, well, I want to preface a little bit. I feel like this is the most stacked category
Yeah, for sure.
that we have.
Yeah,
You know,
for sure.
maybe flex
Definitely.
support is close at like the very top, but there's no like, if I were to work up this list bottom to top, it would take me hours.
Yeah, I
Like
agree.
it's so hard to find the seventh or eighth best player on this list. But I think that number one has to be Laura for me. In my opinion, they're the MVP of the tier. I mean, we've seen MI7 look like a completely different team when they're gone. And he is, dominating when he's back. They had that win against Rem, that win against Chicago Deep Dish at the beginning of the season. Those were like our two top teams to be predicted. And their only losses come when Laura is out. Uh, Reminds me a lot of Larsh from 2 seasons ago
The one and
in
only.
in
Yeah,
Discord tier.
the
So
one and only sleep paralysis demon. we all drink to forget about that sleep paralysis demon, but he always comes back. But yeah, Laura has been a difference maker for MI7, and while this list is stacked, I think Laura has to be the favorite to win this, but we'll see. We'll see what the committee thinks next. We'll see what the committee thinks when we reveal the end of season awards later on. Again, I'll be saying when those awards will be coming out after the broadcast. Some people already know. I don't care. But let's move over now to the best projectile DPS category and the nominees for that. Booncore from the SEAL Team Spuds, Dax from Hammerhead, Dez from Ragnarok Loki, Lettuce from MI7, Nagisa from Galactic Gibbons, Reborn from Reminiscence, Swifters from Adelaide Eclipse, and Zasper from Avalon. Train, of this list, who is your favorite to win the category?
I went with Reborn from Rem. Again, like there's only so much I can talk about Reborn. Like I feel like I have someone to say about it with every tier. But Reborn just far and away the most talented projectile player on this list. It's really surprising to me that there's a lot of conversation on this. I don't know. Reborn is just different. Like I am actively, when you load into a lobby and you see Reborn on the list, it's like, damn, like, oh man, it hurts. It makes me physically sick to my stomach.
Reborn will make you unborn. is a good way to say it. Reborn's just a menace. Apathy, who is your favorite to win the award in this group?
yeah, I don't think there is a lot of conversation for this one. So for that reason, I wanted to give a shout to Zasper of Avalon. I think he is one of the shining stars for this team that gave them so much success in stage one, and you know, not the best stage two, but they weren't like getting dominated every single game. They had a very tough pool to play against, and they still looked pretty good. So I got to give it to Zasper there.
Yeah, definitely Avalon. Very rough stage 2, but Zasper living up what it matters, being able to help that team through the stage, and I believe they were able to get a win at the end of it. If they didn't, they were able to get a win last week against Hammerhead, so Zasper definitely most likely showed up in that matchup. But let's move over now to flex support for Discord Tier NA. Your nominees for this are Antonio from Chicago Deep Dish, Serial from Hades, Glitch from Reminiscence, Luca from Joey Esports, Mad from the Galactic Gibbons, Rocket from MI7, Sleepy G from the Thunder Duckies, and Zorfcon from SEAL Team Spuds. Train, who is your pick to win, or your favorite to win this?
I decided to go with Luca from Joey Esports because they have been one of the most consistent pieces of this roster. Joey has gone through a lot of ups and downs throughout the season, a ton of roster transactions compared to the rest of the tier. And Luca has really been a rock in the support line. All right, one of the most consistent parts, clearly a leader on this team, bringing all the players together in terms of gameplay, at least, which is apparent. So they're really doing the most, it feels like, both in-game and out-of-game.
Apathy, who is your favorite of this list?
Going into this, I filled this out tomorrow. I couldn't decide. I said I'd decide tomorrow. I'm still not gonna decide. I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna say Glitch
I'll
and
allow it.
Rocket. I you can't not mention either one of them here. I think they are both incredible players for their team. Both very similar players. Kind of the foundation, the backbone of each of their teams, allowing players like Lore or Reborn or Choi Soo Hwan or Lettuce to do the things that they need to do. It's all supported through both of these teams' flex supports, and for me, it's impossible to pick between the two.
Yeah, definitely. Glitch and Reborn, definitely two solid candidates on this list. Sorry, I'm just responding to the chat here, but definitely a lot of solid flex support candidates. I mean, it is totally valid that you couldn't pick one. I highly accept it, especially when, I mean, no one else, especially with how good these picks are. But nonetheless, let's move over now to our best main support nominees for Discord Tier NA. Those are Clem from Galactic Gibbons, Dorito from the SEAL Team Spuds, Fungent from MI7, Hayden from Adelaide Eclipse. I'm sorry that Hayden Joey Esports one is a little cursed to see right now, but graphic.
Hated in marsupial. Nothing.
That is scary.
Oh, no.
That is scary. Nonetheless, Nick from Chicago Deep Dish, Prime from Redacted, Saya from Space Created, and Try from Reminiscence. Train, who is your favorite of this list?
I mean, it's simply hashtag try MVP in chat. Like, it just is. Try, like, really the unsung hero of Reminiscence in many ways. But also, like, an unbelievable climb this season. So, really Try is doing so much work for this team. It's hard to overestimate the amount of work that Try does here. Really incredible.
Apathy, who's your pick for best main support?
Well, it seems like Kiriko is a flex support character, so I think Try is disqualified from this, actually.
You're one to talk.
What do you mean? I don't play any support characters. I went with Dorito of the SEAL Team Spuds. I think they came in like week 2 or week 3 or something. And I feel like the team looked a lot better after that. That was kind of a gap in the SEAL Team Spuds roster prior, and I think Dorito has really been able to fill it, and he looks great.
Yeah, definitely. Dorito's been really good on that main support role ever since coming in midway through the season, so definitely a candidate there. Let's move over to most improved of this tier, which, in my opinion, this one is probably one of the most stacked next to best hit scan. So this is definitely going to be an interesting one to look at. But your candidates for most improved are Habutai from Space Created, Luna from Thunder Duckies, No from Chicago Deep Dish, They Call Me M from Hades, Toxic from SEAL Team Spuds, Try from Reminiscence, Turtle from Redacted, and Yummy Mac for Hammerhead. Can you tell who I like the most out of these Discord tier nominations? Regardless of which, Train, who is your favorite to win most improved?
I took the easy pick. I went for Try. If you're climbing from like Diamond to GM in a season of Discord tier, you've got to get a shout out for most improved. I also want to take a second to shout out Toxic over on SEAL Team Spuds. Toxic, kind of middle of the pack in terms of Harmony tier DPS last season, but has really grown into his own as a DPS player this season, and definitely belongs on the higher end of Discord tier. For sure. So a big jump for Toxic as well this season.
He finally got a real coach.
So true. It's not me.
Definitely Toxic has lived up from the days of Toxic Blade 47 is bad. Has definitely been showing up for the SEAL Team Spuds this season. But Try climbing up that much is a lot to be shown. Apathy, who is your favorite for most improved in this tier?
I went with your favorite. Turtle VP. I think they have shown a lot of improvement. They are, one of the carries of this redacted team, and they look great since last season, and since season 7 was their first one.
I believe.
right? Or it was
Yeah.
Skybox was 2
That's right.
seasons ago, right?
Yes, it was. It was 2 seasons ago because that's when I actually got this shirt. Which, by the way, yes, this shirt I'm wearing, I wore this specifically for today's after seeing that Turtle was in the nomination list. This shirt I got back in season 7. On the back,
Someone
of
dropped
it-
the shirt link. Someone dropped the shirt
Yeah,
link.
you can get
Where
you
is
can
it?
get a shirt like this at shopthatfirst.com/tranquilitygg or typing !point store in the chat. But regardless of which, the shirt that I have here, I don't know how well you can see it. I mean, I can't really see it myself, but it should say #4Turtle there on the back. I got this. Turtle told me to get this shirt back in season 7. I didn't think much of it. I was like, I'll just get it for him, or I'll just get it for them. And now we're 2 seasons in season 9, and Turtle is a beast. Turtle is a beast. Has definitely been improved since the days of Skybox back in season 7. Has been moving into a starting role over on Redacted. I have mentioned it. They have seemed like a vast improvement for that team. And I definitely think Turtle is one of the highest candidates for this award. So I'm glad to see that they are in contention for most improved and for best hit scan in Discord tier NA. If they win it or not depends on how the committee thinks. But I think Turtle definitely a really standout performance this season from Turtle. And you can just see it in their feature match versus SEAL Team Spuds. You can see it in some of the highlights they've produced, in the codes if you're willing to watch those. Turtle has been a really good factor for this team. And I think it's safe to say that, definitely deserving of this award. All right, enough talk about Turtle before I boost their ego and they lose next week. Let's move over now to the final category, Discord tier NA. Of course, the best coach. The coach, always the unspoken hero, and your best coach nominees are Chimancy from Space Created, Don Cheadle from Galactic Gimmons, Fish from MI7, Guac from Adelaide Eclipse, Navino from Joey Esports, PGRZ, I do not know how that pronounced, but
Poggers.
thank you. Poggers from Reminiscence, that is a very Poggers name. Smugs from the SEAL Team Spuds, and the Mormon 27 from Redacted. Train, let's start with you. Who is your favorite to win this award?
I mean, it's just got to be Smugs. Like, every time Smugs' name is up here for an award, I just want to give it to him. I mean, I don't know what to do. Like, this guy is just everywhere. He does everything. He plays all 3 roles to an incredibly high level. He coaches to an incredibly high level. SEAL Team Spuds' glow up from the beginning of the season to now is almost unbelievable. They look like a top 4, top 5 team by now. Hot take. And Smugs has been an incredible part of that. Like, he's got a roster with a lot of potential, a lot of talent, and he's given them the game sense and kind of meta understanding to really channel that in a way that no one else really could for their teams.
Apathy, who is your pick of this group?
I gotta go with Speedy 666, aka Poggers. I feel like he has one of the best energies out of any coach that I've seen, and I think that, macro be damned. I think if you can make your team play with so much fun and so much energy, then you're a great coach. And he is good at macro, and coaching mechanics, all the other things that a coach can do. So I gotta go with Poggers.
I did not know that was Speedy, but thank you for informing me
Oh,
that
yeah.
is indeed Speedy.
Yeah.
Same person. He tried to change his name to Speedy, but not.
We haven't let him do that.
Nobody. It didn't really.
Yeah, Glitch is saying in the chat that they may or may not have DM'd yet he hit Poggers instead of Speedy, so...
Nobody calls him.
As you should. As you should.
As you should, I guess. But that out of the way, that is your Discord tier North American nominees for end of season awards. Let's wrap it up with our final category, which is the Transcendence tier, our final tier of the night. Of course, instead of the usual 8, we only have 6 nominees for each category, so this might go a little bit quicker, or it might take as long. I don't know. I'm not the judge, and I run the show. Don't question it. But let's move over now to our nominees for Best Transcendence tier main tank, starting off with our nominees: A-Dog for Frost Fisher, Andy for Decapitators, Darkrai for Amnesia, Samir from Devil Dukes, Tyler from Guangzhou Gangsters, and Wayward from Classified. Train, of this list, who is your favorite to win the award?
I'm going for Tyler from Guangzhou Gangsters. Their roster is just so incredibly talented. I know Cam gets a lot of the play time for the most part, being the off tank player for this team. But when Tyler is in, I think this team looks really, really, really good. And I don't know what it is, if it's like a play style thing, if it's a comms thing, whatever. But Guangzhou looks like a much more organized team when Tyler is in, for sure.
Apathy, who is your pick for best main tank?
Um, I was thinking about Andy, but he kind of has disappeared since Overwatch 2. Fallen, PDK kind of taking that spot, which, makes sense with given the meta and the characters that PDK and Andy are both good at. So I went with Samir, um, which is hard because I don't like Reinhardt. But I feel like, Samir makes it work at one of the top levels, and I think that is deserving of recognition.
Yeah, definitely. If you can make a hero that's not meta work at the top level of the tournament, you're already in contention. I mean, that's just a given at that point. So Samir has definitely helped revitalize that Devil Dukes roster after Devil Dukes lost to Arctic Foxes. But regardless of which, they definitely have been helping that roster a lot throughout the season. Let's move over now to the best off tank in Transcendence tier. Again, 6 nominees for this. Those being Abraxas from the Devil Dukes, Cam from Guangzhou Gangsters, DNA from Death Cards, Greninja from Amnesia, PDK from the Decapitators, and Spectre from Reckless Sigma. Train, of this list, who is your favorite to win the award?
My favorite is PDK, and I think he is like my pick for MVP as well. Like, I think PDK is just so dominant on the off tank, such an aggressive player on the off tank role. Comms extremely clearly as well. I can tell you my ears still hurt from watching Smug's VODs back. But yeah, I don't know. I just think if you compare PDK and the rest of off tank to like the best person in their role relative to the rest of the other people, I think PDK's gap from like first to second is the biggest out of any role in this tier.
Apathy, who is your pick for best off tank in Transcendence tier?
I think the only one on this list that can hold a candle to PDK on characters like Zarya and Diva is Greninja on Amnesia. Another. I think he's the solo tank now. If he's not officially the solo tank on the roster, he plays every map. I'm 90% sure. And I think he is the closest player out of this list to PDK. But don't get me wrong, that still makes you a very, very strong player.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Like, PDK's been dominant, but Greninja definitely has been the closest. So we'll see how well they're able to continue as the season goes on. Let's go over now to best hit scan DPS in Transcendence tier. Your candidates are Akua from Amnesia, Frozen from Guangzhou Gangsters, Mirai from Frostfisher, Orsted from Death Cards, Pyro from Decapitators, and Vix from the Devil Dukes. Train, of this list, who is your favorite to win the award?
My pick is Pyro. Played with him for a season, obviously, full transparency. But when you are running the lobby so hard on Sojourn that the enemy team comes into trance discussion after getting rolled and says, at Pyro, man, your Sojourn is crazy, like at Pyro specifically, like this player is doing something right. And that doesn't really happen with anyone else on this list. So Pyro has clearly adapted to Overwatch 2 well, picked up a new character, and made it very clear that Sojourn needs nerfs in the near future.
Please nerf Sojourn, Blizzard. I swear. I cannot keep getting away with Sojourn play when I am a gold DPS. Apathy, what is your pick for best hit scan of this list?
I think it's tough to pull up another Sojourn better than Pyro, but I think Frozen. I mean, he does play some Sojourn, but I think Guangzhou Gangsters has been playing a lot more of that Reaper Sombra. Sometimes Genji, I think, but I guess that would be Haruhiro. They don't quite play the Sojourn as much. And I think when we're looking at basically any other hero that isn't like, what is it, Sojourn, Hanzo, Ash, then I think you're looking at Frozen as the best at all of those other heroes in the hit scan category.
Definitely a good candidate for that best hit scan category. Let's move over to the other end of the DPS, the projectile DPS candidates. Those being Aura from Decapitators, GLD from Devil Dukes, Haruhiro from Guangzhou Gangsters, our sleep paralysis demon Losh from Frost Fisher, Speedy from Amnesia, and Tescu from Reckless Sigma. Train of this list, who is your favorite to win the award?
I went for Haruhiro. Like, again, Haru is just another like beast. Like, I don't know, it's just unbelievable. Every time I watch this team back, like, Haruhiro is pulling off the most obnoxious like mechanical outplays I've ever seen in Transfer. Like, there's one clip last season from Guangzhou playing like May Brawl on Nepal Village, and Haru just like double triple dinks pharmacy out of the air like 3 fights in a row. Like, that is disgusting. You can't be allowed to do that. And then come back for another season in Transfer. Like, come on, man, that's crazy. So Haru,
It's okay, May is disabled.
Yeah, May is disabled, so slight Haru nerf. But seriously, like, really, really incredible player in the projectile role.
Haru definitely has been a really good projectile player. I can attest to that. And we talked about Haru for almost an entire season now. For Season 8 and Season 9, they have been a consistently good player. So definitely good to see them actually be nominated for this award this season. I don't know if they were last season or not. Regardless of which, Apathy, your favorite for this award?
I went with Aura on the Decapitators. I think I gotta be there for my boy. You have to be a strong player for Magpolar to be riding the bench. And so for Aura to be there starting, we've seen a lot of teams trending more towards like Sombra and Reaper for that projectile DPS too, and Aura's still sticking to the Genji, making it work. And just unfortunately keeping Magpolar's hands cold. So I hate you, but I'm picking you.
So that's why Magpolar is getting benched in this. That's why Magpolar is predicting Decapitators to lose. No, regardless
Yeah,
of which,
He's praying for his spot back. He gets unleashed from his cage when they get knocked out.
pretty much. But yeah, definitely Aura a strong pick, and I didn't even know that they were benching Magpolar, so definitely showing their true skill there. Let's move over to Best Flex Support in Transcendence tier. The 6 nominees for Best Flex Support are Clown Dog from Devil Dukes, Capital from Amnesia, Kip from Death Cards, Sir Olin from Reckless Sigma, True Dunger from the Guangzhou Gangsters, and Vincent from the Sydney Sunsets. Train, who is your pick for Best Flex Support?
I went for Capital. I think, in my opinion, Capital is like the epitome of a playmaking flex support, to the point where he will go to the ends of the earth to make a play. I know for a fact, just listening to comms and playing with Capital once in the past, like, his team is constantly screaming at him to get back here or do something or come somewhere. And he's just in the back line, killing 2 or 3 a fight. So it's been really rewarded, I think, in this Overwatch 2 format. And now he has a partner in LCS who likes to do that with him. So he's really had an opportunity to demonstrate his expertise on the role this season.
Apathy, who is your pick for Best Flex Support?
This is a tough one for me because I feel like, Death Cards just had Placebo come in, and he played a lot of that flex support now, or Delphi did, and Placebo played main support. So like Kip hasn't really been playing lately. I believe Cam has come back on as flex support for Guangzhou Gangsters as well. Maybe that was just because True Donger was missing. So I wanted to give one to Sir Olin on Reckless Sigma. I think that they were a standout player last season, and I think they are, one of the driving forces for Reckless Sigma this season, that gave them such a good B pool run.
Yeah, definitely has been a strong pick throughout this entire season. Let's move over now to the best main support in Transcendence tier, starting off with Alanos from Reckless Sigma, Aplum for the Devil Dukes, Delphi for Death Cards, Cry for Decapitators, LCS for Amnesia, yes, and Slimo for the Guangzhou Gangsters. I had to make sure some of the graphics aren't right, but Slimo for the Guangzhou Gangsters. Train, of this list, who is your favorite to win best main support?
Definitely LCS. I mean, this guy lives and breathes Lucio meta. And he commutes from an entirely other continent to do so. But yeah, LCS just an amazing playmaking player, super aggressive, and does it with a smile on his face the whole time. So not only a leader on the actual Overwatch maps themselves, but also a team leader at that as well. So really big value for his team there.
Apathy, who's your pick for best main support?
I went with Cry. I think transparency be damned. It doesn't matter how many times I've played with Cry and how many times she's carried me. I think she is still the strongest main support in this tier. A very triumphant return to Transcendence tier. She has been improving just so. I mean, she used to play at my level. Like that speaks for itself. She's just skyrocketing in improvement. Completely overtaken me and like every other main support in Tranquility, in my opinion. So, Cry.
Yeah, Cry's been a strong candidate for best main support in both Discord and Transcendence tiers, so definitely deserving there. But only a few more categories left. First off, starting off next with most improved for Transcendence tier North America. Your candidates here are Brent for the Devil Dukes, Chloe for Billings Boomers, Ice Spirit for the Krabby Crabbers, LCS for Amnesia, Spectre from Reckless Sigma, and Tutty from Frost Fisher. Train, of this list, who is your favorite to win the award?
I went for Ice Spirit from Krabby Crabbers for a few different reasons. Like I think individually, they've really gameplay wise improved the quality, of course, but they're also in a team environment that has been pretty wishy-washy and up in the air for a while. A lot of moving pieces, a lot of people coming into Krabby Crabbers and leaving. But I think that's given Ice Spirit a lot of space to actually grow as a player and really take over. And it's been really cool to see that, like a nice adaptation and a lot of growth from them for sure.
Apathy, who is your pick for most improved?
I went with LCS on Amnesia. You know, he took a break from playing support, and the season before that, he was kind of relegated to just pocket Asdo. He had a lot of playmaking ability, but he wasn't always really showing it, or at least not very consistently. But I feel like now he's gotten to the level where he can make those plays on characters like Lucio with consistency and stay alive. And I think that he has grown a lot since the days of old of season 6 jetpack cats, which like not many people know anymore, which is crazy to say that season 6 is back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, it was back in the day for me. That was my first season, but sometimes we like to forget about those seasons. But now it's time for our final award here in the Transcendence tier, which is for Best Coach, the most unspoken person on the roster. The candidates are Darkrai for Amnesia, Jasper for Frost Fisher, Marth for the Decapitators, Mick Jr. 10 for Reckless Sigma, Sev for the Guangzhou Gangsters, and the Mormon 27 for Classified. Train, who is your pick for Best Coach?
I picked the Mormon 27 for Classified. This team has really slid under the radar. It's not a team we talk about very much. It's not an org in general that we talk about very much. But they've had a really successful season, all things considered. It's disappointing to see them kind of go out a little bit early. It's a hard draw, I think, in that first game of the bracket. But the Mormon did a lot of work with this team. It is very, very clear. Early on, a lot of struggle against some of the weaker opponents, but really came into their own through that mid-season and beginnings of Stage 2. And overall, a season I think they should be proud of, by all means.
You also gotta love that the Mormon, such a helpful coach that they're actually willing to come on to the roster and start helping out the team in matches as well. So the Mormon definitely a strong coach in that aspect. Apathy, who is your pick for most improved in Transcendence, or not most improved, coach in Transcendence tier? Sorry.
I went with the reverse of that, which is a coach who started on the roster and then removed themselves. That's Darkrai, starting out as I'm pretty sure the main tank for Amnesia, but now they only need one, so they've moved fully back into their coaching role, and I think they've done a really good job because there's a lot of clashing personalities on that team, but they're making it work, and you kind of need a coach to facilitate that.
You definitely need a coach to facilitate that, and Darkrai has been helping a lot for Amnesia there. But that is all of our tier-specific awards. I say tier-specific because we still have 2 awards to go over. As you know here in Tranquility, it's not just about the players or the teams or the coaches. It's about the community as well. We have 2 special awards to help to focus on outside of the teams in terms of casting work and as well in terms of helping out the community in hand. Our first one of those is for Best Caster. Of course, we take pride in our production here in Tranquility and we do a lot of casting. We try to feature as many matches as possible. And we have a lot of great casters come through our program. Of course, one of the most famous examples is Door, currently casting Overwatch Contenders. Started here in Tranquility, made a name in Tranquility, and is now casting up there in Overwatch Contenders with Hurix. So definitely an example there of building up your reputation to go big in the world of Overwatch casting. This season, 8 nominees are being considered for the Best Caster Award this season. And those nominees are some smelly person named Bowsy, along with Geo, McMissile, Thoriumea, Dexatron, Bethcon, Funky Monk, and Toasty. Train, of these list of casters, who do you think is, who is your favorite to win the award?
I really like McMissile. I think they have a casting style that is really interesting. Fun personality, right? A great passion for kind of the pace of the game and the fun of it, but also matched by a lot of intelligent and well thought out gameplay analysis, even on the fly. Right? I think they do a really, really nice job. So it's always a joy to turn on some random feature and just hear McMissile's voice as I do work in the background. Yeah, makes it more fun.
McMissile definitely has been a great caster this season for us. Apathy, who is your favorite for Best Caster?
Well, this might be cheating a little bit. I do have the Twitch team role I can see inside of that chat. And so Geo is getting a little bit of bonus points for me for always being available for those EU casts. You know, our Twitch team has been sometimes struggling to fill those EU broadcasts, and Geo has been a lifesaver throughout the season and is a damn good caster as well. So my pick is Geo.
Yeah, Geo has been a really strong caster as well. Definitely has been helping out a lot with our EU broadcast. Has been also helping bring in more EU casters into the scene. So Geo really is to thank for a lot of that. I'm also going to chip in here because obviously, yes, I am on this list. Yes, I am a caster. But I am going to mention Apathy's original pick because I could see it. And that's Dexatron. Dexatron, I casted with Dexatron before they came to Tranquility. They definitely seem like a really good personality, a really good caster, and they have shown it this season. They've definitely showed up as a casting role, definitely done a really good job, helped us with Event Week with Door and McMissile, and has done a great job throughout Tranquility, so yeah. I had to pitch in there because Dexatron definitely one of my favorites.
I mean, yeah, I wrote him down, so.
Yeah.
We can't give any of these people enough credit.
No,
y'all do so much work.
a lot of these people deserve so much credit for all of their work in Tranquility, especially during the casting scene. They've done a lot. They've been really good to listen to throughout the features. They've been willing to participate, and they've been overall very good casters throughout the entire season. I wish we could give awards to all 8 of them. Okay, maybe 7 excluding myself, but regardless of which, I think all of them are deserving of the award, so it'll be interesting to see who wins it. But nonetheless, there is still one more award that we have to go over, and that is an award for Best Non-Staff Contributor. Of course, here in Tranquility, you usually hear a lot about the staff. Those green or orange names, mostly at the top of the server list, that are doing a lot of the work behind the scenes of Tranquility. But outside of those, you have a lot of other people willing to commit to them. People who are helping with video editing and production, doing something as simple as making a Google Sheet or as complex as hosting one of your major productions in the Tranquility community. These people that have been nominated, all 10 of them have been helping throughout the Tranquility community this season and have been a linchpin to helping us, and that is why they are all being considered for Best Non-Staff Contributor. So without further ado, here are your nominees for Best Non-Staff Contributor. You have Dan, who's been helping a lot with our EU productions this season. Hippie, who has done a lot of help in productions in terms of multi-observer, replay, and all those other things. You have Phineas, who jumped into productions this season, especially for the North American cast. You have THC, who's been doing a lot more work in the production field throughout the entire season. You have Private Ryan, who's been helping a lot in predicting Tranquility, as well as being a one-time host or a one-time analyst on the Iris podcast. You have Magpolar, of course, part of our Bracketology Megacast, has also been a prominent figure over there in predicting Tranquility. And of course, I can't talk about predicting Tranquility without talking about Nerfed, the host of predicting Tranquility, has been doing a lot of work behind the scenes as well. You have Vela, who's been a video editor in seasons past. This season, they made our Tranquility documentary that you can currently see on our YouTube channel. You have Caden, who's done a lot of work for comms checks as well as other videos we've shown here on the Iris podcast. And as well, you have Phoenix, who's done a lot of montages for the Iris podcast this season as well. So many good candidates. I wish we could give an award to them all. Train, of these candidates, who is your favorite to win the award?
Yeah, I'm gonna cheat. Originally I had one name here. I added a second one. I want to add a fourth, a third, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth, and so on and so on. But unfortunately, we don't have time for that. So first of all, I want to shout out Nerfed. I think Nerfed has done just an amazing job taking over, predicting, has really run with that format, has gotten an awesome variety of people involved as well, which is really cool. I think it's kind of tempting to go back to the same people every time and just reliably get it staffed. But Nerfed has really put a lot of work and love into that program and done an amazing job. I also want to take a second to shout out Hippie. Hippie, probably one of the unsung heroes of the production side of things. I know a lot of people in the community don't really realize how much work Hippie does behind the scenes. I don't even know how much work Hippie really does behind the scenes. But I promise you, if there's something production involved, Hippie probably has a hand in it in some way. So amazing work from those two.
Yeah, definitely. Hippie has been I'm just going to take a moment here. Hippie's done a lot of work for Tranquility. He is currently one of the front runners in terms of doing production work this season at 17 volunteers. So that tells you a lot about how much work Hippie has done this season for our production side. I'm pretty sure, I don't remember, someone will probably correct me on this, but I think Hippie was one of the driving forces helping us simplify our production packages this season, so definitely has been a prominent force in the Tranquility community this season. Apathy, let's wrap it up. Who is your favorite to win Best Non-Staff Contributor?
Well, if we're talking about the amount of content and baseness contributed, then I think Magpolar would be a clear winner. But that's not what contributor means in this case.
No, it isn't.
So I went with Phineas. And we were talking about, Hippie setting up those multi-OBS broadcasting. That means we need new observers who can learn how to, observe the game so that we can have multiple perspectives and catch all the action that we can. And I think Phineas has stepped up in a big way this season for that.
Phineas definitely has stepped up a lot in that production role, has done a lot for producing this season, so definitely a very stacked non-staff contributor award like nominations. We'll have to see who wins those. Which, speaking of that, I did say I'll tell you all when the winners of those are going to be announced. If you don't know already, this time, right here, next week on the Iris Podcast, we'll be revealing the winners of the end of season awards. So make sure you stay tuned to that next week. Now, before we head into our final sections of the day, of course, we had our first in memoriam probably like 2 hours ago when we said goodbye to some teams that have left already. There are still, unfortunately, more teams that we have to say goodbye to. So here we say goodbye to those teams Dino Nuggies versus Brig Divers happening at 8:30 p.m. Central European Time. Later that day at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is Ragnarok Freya versus Clairvoyance. In Transcendence here on Wednesday, Billings Boomers will face off against Reckless Sigma, same time, same place. On Thursday, Discord Tier EU will have Deathwatch face against Cam at 9:30 or 8:30 Central European Time. And finally that night, we close out with our Discord Tier North America match, still to be determined. Stay tuned to our Discord and our website, tranquility.gg, to stay up with the updates on what our feature matches are going to be. Another announcement I need to make. Our Widowmaker 1v1 tournament. We are hosting our flagship program from Event Week on November 20th. Signups are currently available. Make sure you get in contact if you want to sign up for our Widowmaker 1v1 tournament happening on November 20th. That is a Sunday before Thanksgiving, if you need a calendar date for, or at least before American Thanksgiving, if you need a calendar date for that. But definitely going to be interesting to see how well they do. It's going to be interesting to see how well that tournament goes later this month. But make sure you sign up for that if you want to participate. And finally, before we close out, of course, we have our giveaway winner. Of course, we always give a free shirt from shop.spreadshirt.com/tranquilitygg. There were only 3 entries this week, so if you want to get entered to win a giveaway, if you want to enter in to get a
Three people
free
or
t-shirt.
3 entries?
3 entries, I'm pretty sure. Let me check.
Oh, man.
Let me check what I was
Wow.
told here.
Dang.
Yeah, only 3 entries were.
Noel, it's already over, Noel. It's already
it's
drawn.
already over. Any entries that you put in will be put into
That's
next
crazy.
week's drawing. But the winner of this week's drawing is, drumroll please, one of our best main tank end of season nominees, Chobi. Congratulations, Chobi, for winning a free
God, I'm
shirt.
chobing.
We are all chobing
Can't
in the
stop
chat.
chobing.
We
Oh my
can't stop. We
gosh.
need help. But congratulations, Chobi, for winning a free shirt from the Tranquility store. But that is going to do it for us here tonight. For my amazing analysts, Apathy and Train, we thank you all for gazing into the iris with us. My name has been Bowsy. Until we meet again, we hope you have an amazing night and an amazing week in Tranquility Gaming.
Experience tranquility. Pass into the iris.